This is an NJN News special report. Governor Jim Florio's State of the State Address. Now from our Trenton studio, here's Kent Manahan.
Good afternoon. Governor Jim Florio is about to deliver the annual State of the State Address, his second of his administration. And it's a big day for Republicans who 3 hours ago officially took control of the legislature with overwhelming veto-proof majorities in both houses. For Jim Florio, the speech marks the occasion to address a joint session of the GOP-controlled Senate and Assembly, the legislature he'll be facing for at least the next 2 years. Topping the governor's agenda in today's address, the 3 E's: the economy, the environment, and education. And we'll be examining the governor's speech during this program with 2 insiders familiar to NJN viewers: Democratic consultant Jim McQueenie and Republican consultant Bill Palatucci. We'll also be checking in with State House correspondent Larry Stupnagel, who's covering the governor's speech in the Assembly chamber. But first, the new members of the legislature were sworn in today in separate ceremonies beginning at noon. The newly elected Assembly members were sworn into office on the stage of the Trenton War Memorial Building. The Republicans control the lower house by a comfortable 58-22 margin. Chuck Hytayan, who was highly visible as minority leader, was sworn in as the new Speaker of the Assembly. Salem County's Jack Collins now becomes the Assembly Majority Leader. And across the aisle, after 2 years at the helm, Joe Doria steps down from his role as Speaker. He becomes the Assembly Minority Leader. Meantime, Republicans took over the reins in the Senate today as well. New members took the oath of office in their renovated chamber. Republicans outnumbered Democrats 27-13 in the upper house. Donald DeFrancesco is the new Senate president. Senator DeFrancesco took the opportunity to deliver his own speech entitled "The Future of the State."
Today, the governor will report on the state of the state. The people already know the state of the state and know things have gone wrong. They have spoken forcefully for change, for accountability, for a different way of governing. That is why, starting right now, I'm going to speak to you not about the state of the state, but really about the future of the state and how you and I, we, with the people, can shape it as a partnership. The foundation of this partnership will be a new vision of leadership. See, to me, as of today, leadership in New Jersey really means no more business as usual. It means working to produce ideas and solutions that are honest, innovative, practical, effective, and affordable. The kind of leadership I'm talking about is not really puffed up political rhetoric, nor is it some intangible quality. It comprises the qualities that the people of New Jersey understand very well. Qualities like responsibility, to be accountable and to produce results. Qualities like vision, to work not just hard but smart, preparing for challenges before they become crises. Cooperation, bringing together and working with the best and brightest from all walks of life to achieve success. I pledge to you today that these will be the defining qualities of your New Jersey Senate leadership.
State House correspondent Larry Stupnagel is reporting on the governor's speech, and he joins us now from the Assembly chamber, where Jim Florio will be addressing a joint session of the legislature. Larry, I guess that's a jammed house today.
Kent, it certainly is. All of the legislators have just sat down. The governor's cabinet is off to my left here, and we are waiting for the governor to give his address. But right now they're going into the prayer to get the 205th legislative session underway. So I'll throw it back to the studio for now, Kent.
All right, Larry, and we will rejoin you shortly. Well, as we mentioned, we're also joined today in our Trenton Bureau by analysts Jim McQueenie and Bill Palatucci. Gentlemen, we heard a little bit of Donald DeFrancesco's, the new Senate President's speech just a short time ago. We're about to hear from the governor. Of what we know of the governor's speech and Donald DeFrancesco's, how would you characterize what we're about to hear and what we've heard, Jim?
Well, I think from the governor's end, he'll rightfully reflect on some of his accomplishments since last year. And by any measure, they have been accomplishments. Your own political analyst, Michael Aaron, last night said that he had met 13 of those 17 promises, which is a pretty good track record. If I batted 13 for 17 in the World Series, I'd be the most valuable player. He'll also reflect, I think, a little bit on the challenge, not a political challenge to the Republican majority now, but a challenge to protect middle-class New Jersey families from the undertow of the federal recession right now.
Is the governor an MVP with that speech?
No. I mean, I'll keep Jim's baseball analogy that he may have got 13 hits, but none of them have been game winners. And that's the problem for Jim Florio. He's got to have a game winner. And he's got to, remember where we are in the middle of his term. He's going to be sitting here next year at this time, running for re-election or facing a primary challenge of some kind. He's got to start hitting them out of the ballpark. And so far to date, Jim Florio hasn't even come close. And that's his big problem. When does he start hitting some game-winning hits? And now he's got the problem of sharing power with Don DeFrancesco and Chuck Hytaian. So I think you'll see some of that in the governor's speech today, some attempt to tone down the rhetoric, try and begin to work together. I think also, too, these guys are still sparring a little bit. They're trying to feel each other out. How is this new shared leadership thing going to work? I don't think anybody quite knows yet. And I see that reflected a little bit in both the governor's speech and Donnie's.
The State of the State address is certainly one that sets the tone for the upcoming year of the administration in power. The tone setting today in the governor's address, that of jobs, the environment and education, the economy, the overriding theme.
Very, very much so. And in fact, one of the accomplishments that was a home run, I think, the front page of the New York Times today has a story about New York having the next to worst bond rating in the United States because of what New Jersey did to structure its own house. We're not in that situation, and with a lot of the proposals that you'll hear in the speech today, I think, you'll see why we're probably never going to be to that level, and that we're taking care of the issues in our own house to avoid that situation that, like New York has, economically.
The Republicans have called for a rollback in the state sales tax bill. And today, even before they get into full power, this morning's Star-Ledger ran an editorial saying that they should relook at that situation and perhaps renege on that promise because it's going to drop the state into a worse financial crunch than we're about to go into,
well, I mean,
or are already in.
That assumes that they're not going to cut spending. And I think that's the other side of the ledger, and that's the big question, and that's the tougher question. I think the Republicans are going to deliver on that, and I think that is to them, that is their home run. That is what they have promised, and that's what they're going to do. They've got to find, as everybody knows, either revenue or spending cuts to do that. I think they will do that. I think they're going to get it done. And I think Jim Florio will be in a very bad position. I'm surprised he hasn't addressed that differently. I think he's trying to whistle past the graveyard on that issue. You talk about setting the agenda for next year and for the coming year. People want to talk about taxes.
I'm being told that we're going to go back now to the scene in Trenton and to Larry Stupnego, who is covering the governor's State of the State address for us. Larry?
Well, Ken, I could barely hear your introduction because the governor has just arrived, escorted by legislative leaders from both houses of the legislature, to give his second State of the State message to a joint session of the 205th New Jersey legislature. This legislature is going to be very different from the one that the governor addressed a year ago. And this time he is now shaking hands with Republican leaders, Chuck Hytaian and Don DeFrancesco. Hytaian in the Assembly, Don DeFrancesco, of course, the President of the Senate. He's receiving a standing ovation. Also up here we have today the governor's cabinet. And if we can get a shot further over, we have a shot of the governor's chief of staff and a key advisor now to Governor Florio, Democratic consultant James Carville. Carville, of course, is going to be giving advice to the governor for the next couple of years. Florio knows that he's having some problems with the public out there, as evidenced by the overwhelming Republican majorities in both of these houses. Carville, also known as the Raging Cajun, is going to, as signed on early, to try to help Florio out of his political troubles. But today we're going to hear Governor Florio give a speech that looks ahead. He's going to be proposing some new programs both for state government and the way state government is run. Now here's Governor Jim Florio.
Jim Florio.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I certainly appreciate the very kind welcome, and I wish you all a good afternoon. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, members of the legislature, members of my cabinet, ladies and gentlemen. I want to first offer my sincere congratulations to all of the new members of the legislature, especially those who are holding office in this legislature for the first time. I began my own career in public service here, in the back row, as a matter of fact, 25 years ago. And I know the enthusiasm that you feel today, and I know that you're going to do very well, and that this is a high point in many of your lives, just starting out on a career of public service. Today, this great hall stands renewed as a symbol of pride in our history. The promise of New Jersey's future is within these walls. For more than 200 years, New Jersey has pointed the way for our nation's progress. We're a state of very industrious and very inventive people. But today, unfortunately, the state of our state is troubled. You can see it on the faces of New Jersey's hard-working men and women. For too many, our journey towards prosperity seems stalled. Too many people feel insecure in their jobs and in their homes. And nearly everyone is concerned about the future. People need help, and they need hope. And they don't need it some other time. They don't need it next year. They don't need it somewhere down the road. They need it now. That's the challenge that you and I face in this chamber and in the state as well. To help the people of New Jersey now. And that's exactly what we're going to do. To meet this challenge, we have to work harder to try to restore the vitality of our economy, to change the way that government operates, and most importantly, to reestablish the people's confidence in their government. I know that's easier said than done, but I'm convinced that we're up to the task. Yes, the times are tough, but New Jerseyans are tougher. We need to help our people. People like Jackie Cranston. Jackie lives with her 8-year-old son in Chatham. She lost her job last summer, but now she's learning new work skills and she's working part-time. It's still a little shaky, but Jackie hasn't given up, and we're not going to give up either. We've taken some positive steps in these last 2 years, and these steps are making a difference in people's lives. We've done more than any other state in this nation to fight the national recession that we're in. As a result, we've got the strongest economy in the Northeast. We've got one of the highest credit ratings on Wall Street. We're working to break the sawing spiral of double-digit property tax increases. We're working to bring down car insurance and get it under control. We're trying to invest again in our roads, in our bridges, in our railways. We're fighting back against the crippling effects of the credit crunch, giving our small business people the kind of help that they need. Our health care cost reforms will save New Jersey $85 million this year alone in the cost of uncompensated health care. But despite our best efforts, many people are still hurting and many more are worried. They want to know what we can do to get back on track again. And by the way, that's a question that's being asked of every public official in this land, from California to Maine. And with obvious good reasons, because this is a national recession that we're in. No single state, no family can battle it alone. In some respects, it's like trying to rake leaves in a windstorm. Last month, we had a dramatic lesson provided to us in just how hard it is to rake those leaves. One day, as some of you may recall, I went down to Camden and was with General Electric at a groundbreaking for a new aerospace center. That day alone put 1,000 construction workers to work and will permanently employ 1,700 people. A project, by the way, that was put together with the state's dramatic assistance. The federal government that day also announced that 10,000 New Jerseyans had lost their jobs the month before. That's the cruel arithmetic of this recession in New Jersey. For every step we take forward, the national recession can push us 10 steps backward. The stakes are very high for our people. So it's time to put politics aside and govern. It's time to put pessimism aside and build. It's time to put all of the agendas aside and put New Jersey's agenda first. Our common cause must be restoring hope and opportunity for all New Jerseyans. That means helping people feel secure again about their lives and optimistic again about their children's future. I've been talking to a lot of our state's leaders in business, in labor, in higher education, about how to create jobs and restore economic opportunity. Some of the ideas that you'll hear today came from that group, the Governor's Economic Conference. Some other ideas came from the people that I met on my travels around New Jersey. Ordinary people with some extraordinary ideas. Together, they make up 7 points of common sense to create jobs and economic opportunity for New Jersey's people. There's a lot that we can do. First, we need to do more to get people back to work. New Jersey can't fill the jobs gap alone, but we can show people how to create jobs. Last year, more than 100 companies showed their faith in New Jersey by announcing plans to move or expand here. Last month, I wrote a letter to the White House and asked for help to get our people back to work with some strategic public works investment. I still hope for a favorable response, but the bottom line is we can't afford to wait, and we won't. Ladies and gentlemen of the legislature, today I'm asking the legislature to create a New Jersey Economic Recovery Fund. The fund will allow us to invest in public-private economic growth projects all over this state. More important, our $200 million fund will leverage $800 million in private investments that will create 20,000 new jobs in construction now and 75,000 permanent, good-paying, productive jobs in fields from manufacturing to the service industries to the arts. And to make sure that the job is done right, I'll assign it to an agency with a proven record for creating good jobs fast. Our Economic Development Authority, EDA. Last year, EDA provided a record number of businesses with the loans that they needed to grow and to expand. Businesses like Alan Hirschfeld's company, American Vitamin Products in Freehold. James Nixon's business, Inland Brake Manufacturing Corporation in Passaic. And Charles Loeb's Insulated Duct and Cable Company in Ewing Township. I'm pleased that these industrious entrepreneurs are here with us today, and I'd like them to stand if they wouldn't remain in the line. We can finance our Economic Recovery Fund with money that we will receive from a good deal that we negotiated with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Our first check from the Port Authority arrives in about 6 weeks. I'd like to see our fund in place by then so that we can get people back to work right away. The Economic Recovery Fund will enable New Jersey to take some giant steps to a better future. We'll get projects such as the expansion of the Atlantic City Airport and the construction of a world-class performing arts center in Newark off the drawing boards and into the ground. The fund will also provide private businesses with the capital that they need to grow and to create new jobs. I anticipate legislation will be introduced soon to create this jobs and growth plan. And I'm asking you, ladies and gentlemen, to make our Economic Recovery Fund your #1 priority. Second, in New Jersey, transportation is fundamental. By strengthening our transportation network, we'll improve our quality of life, we'll boost our economy, and we'll create jobs. That's what we've been doing for the last 2 years. That type of investment has enabled us to create 12,000 jobs and to pump millions of dollars into our economy. And ladies and gentlemen, these aren't make-work jobs. We're straightening out traffic circles, and we're adding new lanes to get our cars moving. We're widening Route 1 in Middlesex County. We're reconstructing the Somerville Circle. We've opened Route 18 in Monmouth County. We've opened the first commuter rail line from Monmouth to Hudson County in 25 years. And we're working on hundreds of other projects to keep New Jersey moving. Today, I'm calling on the legislature to eliminate the restrictions once and for all on the State Transportation Trust Fund. Freeing these dollars will create 13,000 jobs for the people of New Jersey over the next 3 years. 13,000 jobs. This one step alone will build a bulkhead of jobs and wages and capital to help us fight this recession. Our transportation investments will be smart, targeted, and fast. We'll set quick turnaround dates and cut through the red tape to create jobs now when people really need them. Boosting our transportation investments, by the way, also offer us another very powerful advantage. We'll be able to take full use of the federal transportation money that's been won for us by Senator Frank Laudenberg and Congressman Bob Rowe. Bob Rowe is here with us. I want to ask him to stand, if he will. Thank you. Bob is truly one of New Jersey's champions of transportation, and we thank you on behalf of all of the people of this state. Third, if New Jersey's people are to remain competitive in a high-tech economy, we need to invest in the skills of our workers. It isn't just the recession that keeps an awful lot of people up at night. It's the fear that their skills have become obsolete or soon will be. It's the money that provided by good jobs that people are concerned about losing. It's the worry that those good jobs will disappear and that we're, in some respects, seeing people's skills drift out of their reach. Yeah. Their training has to be provided so as to be able to have skills that are relevant to the skills of the future. We're very proud that we extended unemployment benefits in 1991, long before Washington got around to it. But there's much more that we need to do. That's why I'm urging the legislature to support the creation of a new skills partnership. The new skills partnership will allow us to train 100,000 workers in the skills that it takes to win in the marketplace that we're in nowadays. We can work with business and labor and higher education to train the people in the skills that they'll need to keep their jobs and to be able to get ahead. We can help people who have lost their jobs as well to move back into the workforce and up the economic ladder. And of course, by helping our people, we'll also give our businesses a new competitive edge in these tough times. I believe in our working people, and I know that you do as well. If we give them the tools and the technology and the training that they need, New Jersey's people can outwork and outthink and outcompete any people on the face of the earth. That should be our task. We know that retraining works. We've seen it work to keep opportunity alive for workers and for companies. We've seen it at places like the Ford assembly plant in Edison, where workers used state labor department techniques to design training programs and improve skills. And the efforts there convinced Ford to keep its Edison plant in operation, and impressed Mazda enough to shift its pickup truck operation to be built there. Our new skills partnership is good for people, it's good for business, and it certainly is good for New Jersey. And it's an investment that won't burden businesses or employees, because we can fund it by redirecting the money paid into our unemployment insurance trust fund, which is in excellent shape as a result of some very, very good management. And with the new skills, we're rededicating ourselves through this partnership to another very important principle that I trust that we all subscribe to. As New Jersey moves ahead, we won't leave anyone behind. We need to keep the American dream of owning a home alive in New Jersey. Owning your own home is fundamental. Yeah. It's a key to financial security for our families, and it's what ties people to their communities. We all know middle-class families who work hard, some who even bring home 2 paychecks, but still can't scrape together the down payment for a home. Or if they can, they can't afford the property taxes. Our people certainly deserve better. That's why we fought so hard to provide for property tax relief last year. That's why we created the New Jersey First-Time Homebuyers program. Like a lot of young married people, William and Lisa Shiner work hard and earn good salaries, but they couldn't save enough for the down payment. Yeah. Our First-Time Homebuyers program gave them the break that they needed, and last year, William and Lisa and their 2 little boys moved into their own home in Union. I think William and Lisa are here today. Will they stand up? For the Shiners and thousands of young families just like them, we need to hold on to this hard-won ground. That means holding the line this year on property taxes, because we cannot afford another decade of double-digit tax increases like we had in the 80s. We also need to expand our First-Time Homebuyers program. Our program is one of the most ambitious of its kind in the entire nation, and we're proud of it. Let's build on it and expand it beyond even what it is today. Today, I'm directing Banking Commissioner Jeff Connor to work with the legislature to craft a homebuyers tax credit program to help middle-class families especially. A tax break for the middle class is exactly the kind of medicine that our economy needs. Our new tax credit can pay for itself many times over in new jobs and in home sales. That should be a high priority. Fifth, I think all of us would agree that the overriding problem with our healthcare system isn't that we spend too little money. It's that we waste too much. Reducing the cost of healthcare for people and making sure that no one is left uncovered are absolutely essential if this state is going to compete and if we're going to live up to America's expectations of a decent society. Healthcare costs are cutting into paychecks. And in today's tough economies, many families fear that they're one accident, one illness, or one pink slip away from disaster. Healthcare in the 90s is not a luxury. It's a right. I urge the legislature to act on these critical issues relating to health care. We must find a new way to pay for health care. For people who lack insurance, that's the target that we have to fix for ourselves. Making people who have insurance pay the bills for those who don't, as we currently do, isn't fair and doesn't work. We must also continue to try to shift the focus of healthcare to prevention. And we must start to crack down on administrative overhead, high provider costs, and duplication of technology. There's a better way, and New Jersey should take the lead in trying to find a better way. I hasten to add that the healthcare crisis is a national crisis. We all know that we're not going to find a way to provide a fundamental right of affordable health care without some national response. I pledge to work with our congressional delegation to try to get the job there done where it should be done. Sixth, I think we should also reaffirm another basic right here in New Jersey. That's the right to go to college if you can do the work. We can't guarantee success, but we can make sure that others get the same opportunity that many of us did in the state college system. Quality education at affordable costs. In today's high-tech economy, education is more than a privilege. It's an absolute necessity. But in recent years, cuts in college assistance and increases in tuition have created an economic Everest that many middle-class families just can't climb. In 1981, Washington contributed 29% of all college aid in this nation. Today it is 9%. While Washington talks about helping middle-class families, we're making college affordable for middle-class families here in New Jersey. We are very, very proud of our Garden State Savings Bond program that has helped thousands of New Jersey parents start saving for their children's education. People like Andrew Rudzinski of Milltown, who brought 2 bonds for his children, 13-year-old Tina and 12-year-old Tommy. We're proud of Andy and the thousands of parents like him who are investing today in their children's future and in our future. Andy and the children are here today. I'd like to ask them to rise so we can thank them for the investment. We want more families to have the same chance to save for college. So we're going to make more Garden State savings bonds available. We're also giving families a hand with tuition bills today as well. Even during these difficult times, we've increased funding for tuition assistance program. Today, we're first in the nation in helping low and moderate income families pay for college. And we're doing more than any other state to keep college within reach of middle-class families. Through our New Jersey Class Loan Program, we're helping young people get the education that they need to compete in this fast-paced world that we're in. The reception for the Class program has been extremely gratifying. New Jersey has stepped in and said yes to middle-class families when Washington looked the other way. These folks are not looking for handouts. They're looking for a hand. And using the good name and the credit of this state, we can help families without burdening the taxpayer. We've already loaned nearly all the dollars that we've set aside in this program, and there are still thousands of families who need help. So today, I'm instructing our Higher Education Assistance Authority to go to the market for additional funds to loan to deserving and qualified middle-class families. Education is just another word for opportunity. And we should subscribe to that belief and do everything that we can to give people opportunity. Seventh, clean water is fundamental for our people. We can all remember the 80s, when you couldn't just check the weather report before you headed to the beach. You had to check to find out whether the beach was open or not. We feared in some respects that we might be watching the slow death of the Jersey Shore. I'm very proud that last year we saw the rebirth of the shore. The ocean was cleaner than it's been in years, and a lot of shore businesses had record seasons. And that, of course, is because we fought back against the special interests that would poison the ocean for profit. We stopped ocean dumping off the coast of New Jersey. We enacted the highest water quality standards in the nation. Our Clean Water Enforcement Act of 1990 is a national model of environmental vigilance. But there's still more that we have to do. The Jersey Shore is the jewel in our crown. It's the heart of our $13 billion tourism industry. I said last year that I wanted to sign legislation that protects the shore once and for all from unreasonable development. I'm looking forward to working with Senator Bennett and others in the legislature to plug the loophole so that we can protect our Jersey coastline once and for all, and to have that beyond us. But overdevelopment isn't the only thing that threatens the shore. We got a very stark reminder of that on Halloween, and again 2 weeks ago, when fierce storms pummeled our beaches. Repairing the damage from those storms took nearly every dollar that we had in the emergency state fund, and has placed tremendous burdens on local budgets. So I'm calling on you to craft legislation that will ensure a stable source of funding to preserve our shore and our tourism industry. I've already talked with Senator Krillos, who is ready to take the lead, and I'm very, very confident that all of us will subordinate all other considerations to try to do what is required in this area. We need to keep our shore the source of pride and inspiration that it's always been. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time in New Jersey's history, our most important job is to restore economic opportunity. This common sense agenda that I offer to you will begin to meet that challenge. But to reach the higher ground of restored opportunity, we must do nothing less than change the way that government works. We need to return to those principles that bring people back into the democratic process. As you may know from the newspapers, I've been spending these last few months crisscrossing the state, and I've been visiting with people in town meetings and municipal halls and diners and libraries and fire halls. Everywhere I go, people are telling me that they just don't know if government works anymore. Some people think that government is indifferent, and most think that government is irrelevant, out of touch with the things that are most important to our families. If you want to make government relevant again, you need to make it responsive again. You know, I used to go out and talk with the people in a very conscientious way when I was a congressman down in the 1st Congressional District. And I always came back refreshed and with a better understanding of my responsibilities and the people's needs. Maybe it's a bit harder to do that when you're the governor, but it is just as essential. Talking to the people over the last 2 months has helped me get back on track, to understand what this whole system is supposed to be about. I found something, by the way, out there that is not too common sometimes here in the State House complex. I found an awful lot of common sense. I found an awful lot of good wisdom that people have. Our people know that government can't do everything, and they don't want it to. But they want us to do everything we can to get our state moving again. To do that, we need to literally redesign the government. We need to promote economic growth, not stand in its way. We need to make government more accountable, to give people better services and more choices about the things that really matter in people's lives. We have to shift more of the authority for making decisions about our communities to our communities. In creating this new framework for greater responsiveness, there are some principles that we ought to adopt. Government must be rebuilt to act as a catalyst for economic growth. The proposals I've offered to you today will enable us in 1992 to build on the foundation that we have. We must reject the shop-worn solutions of tired bureaucracies. When I talk to people about what government is doing for them, they tell me that they're sick and tired of bureaucracy and red tape and unresponsiveness. Last year, we began introducing the vigor of competition to government. Speaker Haitayan and others have expressed support for privatization. I want to work with him and the legislature to expand opportunities for privatization and make it work here in New Jersey. Government also must be more responsible and accountable to people. All across our state, people are telling me that they want public officials to live by the rules that we make. That doesn't sound so radical. People want us to make rules that are sensible, that don't defy one's intellect. They want to make sure that they're getting a dollar's worth of service for the dollars they pay. And they're right about having these rules that make sense. I heard about this runny egg rule that was publicized yesterday. That's on its face appears unenforceable and, quite frankly, silly. I'm requesting that the health department put this regulation on hold and report back to me in ending this intrusive regulation. We also believe that anytime taxpayers' dollars change hands, those dollars must be very carefully monitored, whether it's a health care check going to a doctor or a paycheck going to a school administrator. We've been working very, very hard to try to streamline this government. When I came into office, New Jersey had 64 different job training programs spread out across 6 different departments. With our State Employment and Training Commission, we've combined them into 15 programs, saving our taxpayers $6 million. We're also fighting for tougher accountability by making public officials more accountable through local ethics laws that are tougher, by eliminating, as we did, lifetime tenure for school superintendents, by tightening the reporting requirements for lobbyists. But we need to do more. Our top-to-bottom audit of state government has already saved New Jersey taxpayers more than $250 million. It's time that we created a permanent audit commission to keep a watchful eye on state government spending. I also would call upon the legislature to take some actions that are long overdue. We need to slam the revolving door on officials who leave government service and then use their new positions to profit at the public's expense. We need to toughen reporting standards for special interest lobbyists. And we need to add more public members to the State Ethics Commission, our watchdog agency for government. Government also must give people more freedom to make choices about their lives. In New Jersey, our commitment to choice is firm and clear. We've reaffirmed the fundamental right of women to choose how to handle their reproductive health, and we will continue to stand strong for that right. We've expanded our family health centers so that more of our people can see a doctor of their own choice instead of waiting in the emergency room of the local hospital. And we're allowing businesses to make their own choices about how to cut hazardous materials to avoid polluting our air and our water. Our pollution prevention program is the envy of the nation. We know that choice works. Government needs to give people more choices about health care and education and all of the important things that touch us directly. Government also must allow people to exercise more authority in their communities. All across our state, people tell me that they're tired of Trenton's top-down approach. They want to make more decisions and participate in the process of governing in their communities. The government that works best works closest to our people. Our local partnerships task force is studying how to help counties and municipalities save tax dollars by joining forces to provide shared critical services. Under the direction of our Attorney General, Bob Del Tufo, we have begun some community policing programs that are bringing police and community neighborhood groups together in our cities and in our towns to prevent crime before it happens, rather than to wait till after the fact of a crime being committed. I've always believed that the most basic and precious right that we have is the right to be safe, the right to be secure in our towns and in our homes and in our streets. And while we're at it, by the way, there isn't any question in my mind that our children are our best hope for a secure future. Last year, we increased our educational investment in our children by 22% to help them reach their full potential. We're very proud of that commitment. But it takes more than money to create good schools. It takes whole communities working together. And it's time to involve parents, teachers, school administrators, business people in the communities, everyone involved in deciding how our schools operate. Some people call that school site management. I call it common sense. And above all, and maybe this is the most significant of all the things we have to do if we have to have responsiveness in government, we must empower our people so that once again they feel linkage with this government, which is theirs. We have to give them greater say in the policies and the process of government. Our job is to serve. And to do that, we need to listen. But we have to go beyond just listening. If the people are to be truly heard, we need to change the government structure. Over and over, I hear people tell me that if you want me to trust government, government has to trust me and let me have a bigger say in New Jersey's future. That's why I'm calling upon the legislature to give the people of New Jersey the right to have their voices heard and heeded through initiative and referendum. Believe me, I know all the arguments against initiative and referendum. I've made a lot of them myself in the past. Yes, we'll need safeguards against outrageous spending by special interests. And yes, we'll need to have a provision to make sure that everyone behind a ballot question fully discloses who they are and what they really want. But I know that this legislature can fashion a system that works in the public interest, and I think they should. And while we're at it, I urge debate to go forward on term limitations. I've met with some people and some groups who make very good arguments for this cause. Their proposals merit honest, open discussion in this chamber and by the people of the state. Ladies and gentlemen, Ladies and gentlemen, in talking with the people of New Jersey, I've gotten a lot of good advice about how to get our state back on track. And I'm prepared to accept that advice. It's time to put aside our political differences and work as partners to get the economy moving again. It's time we cut the bureaucracy and encourage competition. It's time that we expand choices for people and families and communities, that we provide greater opportunities for communities to govern themselves. It's time that we increase the accountability of government to the people. And most assuredly, it's time that we trust the people to shape policy in the polling place. Actually, if you ask the people of New Jersey, they'll tell you it's not just time, it's long overdue. Our two parties have worked together before to support our people in times of crisis. It's time again for a balanced government that works, not a paralyzed government that self-destructs. I pledge to you that as my goal in 1992, and I ask you to join with me and make it your pledge as well. Let me just share with you this final thought. More than 200 years ago, Dr. Joseph Warren, the president of the Massachusetts Congress, addressed his fellow Americans and said, "On you depends the fortunes of America. You are to decide the important questions on which rests the happiness and liberty of millions yet unborn. Act worthy of yourselves." Today, we are being handed that same responsibility. It's expressed in 100 different ways, but it all comes down to the same thing. We must act worthy of ourselves. We must, and we will. Thank you very much.
And so Governor Jim Florio concludes his second State of the State message to a joint session of the New Jersey legislature. This legislature now dominated by Republicans. During the nearly 55-minute address, the governor he said the people of New Jersey need help, and he called for a $200 million economic recovery fund. He also called on the legislature to eliminate barriers for using the Transportation Trust Fund. This, of course, would create jobs, said the governor. He also called for a job training program, tax breaks for middle-class homeowners, a way to fund health care for those who don't have health insurance, a steady source of funding for shore protection, and in some very fundamental change in the way New Jersey conducts government. He called for initiative and referendum, and he also said the time has come for debate on whether or not terms should be limited for New Jersey's lawmakers. He's leading the chamber now, shaking hands with lawmakers, and he's about to begin the second 2 years of his term with a decidedly different legislature. The legislature at this moment is going to give a closing prayer, so let's go back to the studio.
All right, Larry, and we're going to take a break in our coverage of Governor Florio's second State of the State address, and we'll be back with more as our coverage continues in just a moment. welcome back to New Jersey Network's live coverage of Governor Florio's second State of the State address. I'm joined here in our Trenton studios with Republican analyst Bill Palatucci and Democratic analyst Jim McQueenie. Gentlemen, we've been listening to the governor's speech. You know, it was well written, well delivered, perhaps a little too long, as I think we all might have taken note of. But how much input does the governor have in putting together this speech and the writing of it?
I think in this case, the Governor Florio had a lot of input. You saw that it was really reflecting a lot of the values that he's been saying. From our notes that we were taking here as we were going through, I think a tactical thing, it was clear the governor in this address was setting an agenda for the legislature to follow, or work with the legislature to follow. It's the economic, or the economy. He's willing to, made it clear also, I think, that he was willing to share the helm here, and that he wasn't really abandoning ship in any way. And for the style of the speech, I think, again, it was, this is really a day of pageantry and ceremony, as you saw. I thought he was really at his best, and that's just not a blind partisan statement, because I've seen these speeches all the way back to Cahill, sure. And I thought, while Kane, I felt Governor Kane used this forum very, very effectively. I think today Governor Florio stepped up and played in that league, frankly, on this kind of address.
From the other side of the aisle, Bill, was it a common sense agenda in your opinion?
To a certain degree. I mean, clearly this is his best speech yet. I think we all agree to that as we were listening to it. I think his first 20 minutes or so were probably the best part while he was on the recession and building jobs again. What I find fascinating by the speech is all the things that he left out and what he didn't talk about. Folks, this is a guy who raised taxes by $3 billion, who staked his administration and the future of the state on $3 billion. I mean, by my tally, through an hour worth of speaking, he used a T word, only 5 times, and only in the context of property taxes. Here's a guy who last year was fighting tooth and nail to defend his programs and his agenda and his vision based on his social engineering of $3 billion. And who here was struggling to say the T word, just wouldn't say taxes.
So the tone was different this time around, reflecting the people's anger and continued anger.
Well, that's one other thing. That's the other thing he didn't say. Here's a guy who's out there where I've been listening to the people and asked, what they're sick and tired of. They told me bureaucracy and red tape. Jim, you tell me you were out there and they didn't say taxes? Come on, could he have been out there listening and people not talk about taxes?
What about it, Jim?
Well,
not once?
I think there's an interesting kind of thing going on here, which is the challenge has gone forward for both Governor Jim Florio for the next 2 years, but also to this new legislature that was really carried in under a lot of sentiment against taxes. There we've said it. But sure. On the other hand, he's put the Republicans really pretty much in a tight box at this point, especially on the initiative and referendum, which was probably a little bit of a surprise for people hearing that speech.
Was it a surprise, Bill?
Sure. I mean, a person who's been his whole career against it and opposed to it, you've heard inklings of it from time to time that he was softening, he was thinking about it, and now today finally, okay, I'll reverse myself.
Well, also initiative and referendum we throw the buzzwords around in Trenton, but initiative and referendum really means that the public will have the chance to put on issues on the ballot as questions in the fall, using the legislature to do that. The ticklish thing for the Republicans is that they're in charge now in the legislature, and the ones who lose power mostly from putting this on the ballot is the legislature, not so much the governor. The Republicans could be put in a very ticklish spot of going against the people's will by preventing these issues from getting on the ballot. It's a tight situation for them.
I saw the Senate leader, DeFrancesco, smile. I saw Assemblyman Haitayan smile at that mention of initiative and referendum, something they don't want to hear.
Exactly. Well, I saw Chuck Haitayan take notes. I think it was, how do we get out of this one?
Well, that's right. I mean, but I think it's less so. I mean, it's more a point of they know there are a lot of special interests out there who help them get elected, who give them a lot of money. They're going to have to stand up to and say, well, guys, we now have to find a way. But I mean, I think that's a secondary issue. They will find a way to craft an INR bill that is not California-style INR, but will please everybody, and the special interest group will say, all right, I'll close my eyes, quick, do it, and get it over with. Again, I mean, the other things he didn't talk about, can he say after 2 years that the kid, I mean, my kids in their school, is it better? You know, have we really gotten property tax relief? I mean, the Democrats continue to play this game about, well, we've stabilized property taxes. It's not as bad as it used to be. That's not when Jim Florio turns for re-election, they show his words about providing property tax relief, not stabilization. It'd be very, very tough.
I'm going to leave Jim chomping at the bit because he wants to jump in here, but I've got to throw our coverage back now to Larry Stupnagel, who is live at the State House with more on the governor's State of the State address. Larry?
That's right, Kent. There's reaction going down on the floor. Reporters are talking to the Republican legislative leadership. I have another Republican leader with me live right now. He is Assemblyman and State GOP Chairman Bob Franks. Bob, any surprises in the governor's speech?
Larry, I think if there was one surprise, and I think it was the governor's endorsement of initiative and referendum. I'm glad that the governor has changed his mind on this. I hope this is a precursor to his changing his mind on a lot of policies that he has endorsed in the past and now might see some new wisdom in. I'm delighted that he's going to join the fight for INR. It's important to recognize, though, that constitutional amendments don't go to the governor for his signature. But all I want now is to ask him to put some leverage behind his endorsement and try to get some of the Democrats in the legislature who, almost to a person, have failed to support initiative and referendum at any time in the last 15 years. Every bit of heavy lifting that's been done on this issue in the past has been done by Republicans. Sometimes we've succeeded, like we did in 1986 when we passed it out of the General Assembly. Other times we haven't been as successful. But it's really been the efforts of just the Republican Party to try to give these important citizens' rights to the people of New Jersey. I hope the governor's going to help us with the Democrats in the legislature. If he does, I think we're going to see initiative and a referendum this fall on the ballot, which would be great.
I think some Democrats might counter by saying that, well, there was an INR movement, but it was the Republicans in the Senate that didn't want to go for it in the last year.
Well, we did not have unanimity in the Senate on that issue at that point in time, but that got rolled into a whole lot of other games around which INR was just one. Now there's a clean slate, a new legislature, a governor of the other party now solidly behind it, from what I just heard. If he'll work his caucus the way we're going to work ours, I have little doubt that this is the year we can finally give New Jersey citizens the rights of initiative and referendum, which citizens in some 23 other states already have.
What about the issue of term limitations? You enjoy overwhelming majorities now in both houses of the legislature. Do you think that this is the time to have term limitations? And you, as state chairman, has also declared the Republican Party in the state as the new majority party. Is this the time to throw that majority up to the voters, I guess, if you will, by limiting everybody's terms?
I do so. I think we have to support term limitation. I'm a co-sponsor of Chuck Hytien's proposed constitutional amendment. I wouldn't be back in the legislature next session, but I think that's probably healthy insofar as creating a climate in which we can get new people with fresh ideas, new perspectives into the legislature. I think we need that. I think it's the Congress of the United States, though, that is in urgent need of this kind of reform. The problem with people serving too long in public office is no more graphically available to us than to look at the seniority system, which still dominates the Congress of the United States, the old boy network. So what I would like to do is try to create some initiative where we look at some term limitations for our federal office holders as well as term limitations for our state office holders.
At the end of his speech, very quickly here, the governor held out an olive branch to the Republican majorities and said, let's work together. How do you think it's going to go for the next couple of years?
I'm hopeful that it goes well. No question that on November the 5th, when people went to the polling places and in record numbers chose Republicans for the Assembly and the Senate, gave us enormous majorities, they did so knowing that there was a Democratic governor in the State House. But they did not vote for gridlock, and they didn't hope for stalemate. They want us to work together to put New Jersey back on the road to prosperity. I'm hopeful that the tone of the governor's remarks today indicates that he's prepared to join with us. We're going to give him every opportunity to do that. We're going to certainly hold his ideas out as honorable ones and ones that we should seriously consider. And we hope that that treatment works the other way as well.
All right, well, we have 2 years to see how it is actually going to work. Assemblyman and State GOP Chairman Bob Franks, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Larry Stupnagel, live at the State House. Let's go back to the studio now in Kent, Manhattan.
All right, Larry, I'm here with Bill Palatucci, Jim McQueenie, two regulars here on our coverage, anything to do with politics, New Jersey Network. We just heard Assemblyman Bob Frank's call for Democratic support for initiative and referendum. The numbers split up 58-22 in the lower house.
I think he's not used to the fact that this is day one of responsibility for the Republicans. They've got 58 people in that assembly, and he's looking for Democrats. Well, it's hard to find with only 22 left, but looking to try find Democrats at this point in time, as if that's the key now to solving. This is day one of their responsibility. It's their watch in the legislature. I find that kind of interesting. The other interesting thing is to see them really having to eat these proposals that they made as minority players before on term limitations and INR. You can propose them when you're part of the majority. Now they're flipped in and they're in control. This is the last thing, to use Bill's phrase, whistling past the graveyard, Bill, here to use your phrase.
That's true. We're going to, it takes a little time to get this leadership thing down right and things. I think it's key for the Republicans in the next couple of months is to keep the agenda on the Republican side. And what that is, it's taxes. And again, you saw Jim Florio, that's the last thing he wants to talk about. And that's what he's known for in New Jersey. When people hear the name Florio, they think of taxes. Very clever speech today, very well done, trying to get beyond it, trying to talk about the recession and bringing jobs back. Republicans can play ball on those issues, but they've got to hold Jim Florio's feet to the fire. They've got to roll back that sales tax. They've got to remind people that the basic difference between Republicans and Democrats is given the chance, Republicans cut the taxes and the Democrats raise them. If they can do that.
Franks, though, is this what he said, a little bit of a prelude of what might be to come? Some have observed that there's perhaps too much of a majority for the Republicans, too much to control with too many diverse personalities to keep in line on issues, whether it be initiative and referendum or term limitation.
I'm sorry, I think that's especially true in the Senate, where they have no margin for error. I mean, at least in the Assembly, they've got a couple of votes here or there. They could let some guys off the hook once in a while. Don DeFrancesco doesn't have that luxury, and you've got senators too who've been there a little bit longer. They're kind of set in their ways, and they believe who they are means a lot to them and their constituents. So it'll be a lot tougher at times for Donnie to put together and hold together 27 votes every single time.
Let's remember what Governor Byrne, when he had 66 people in the Assembly for him years ago, talked about how he was surprised in hindsight. He said, I didn't realize there were 4 branches of government. There's the governor, there's the chief justice, there's the legislature, and there's the Democrats in my own party in the legislature.
That's right.
So I think Speaker Haitayan is going to find, to your point, controlling such a lopsided majority. How do you think many of those people who just got elected for their first term are going to respond to term limits right now?
Well, gentlemen, I thank you very much for being with us on our New Jersey Network live coverage of Governor Florio's State of the State Address. Jim McQueenie, Bill Palatucci, again, thank you for being with us. And that wraps up our live coverage of the Governor's State of the State Address. We give our thanks to Rita Scarcella for signing Governor Florio's address this afternoon. Be sure to tune in to New Jersey Network News tonight at 7 o'clock, again at 11:30 for in-depth coverage of today's events. And NJN will rebroadcast Governor Florio's speech this evening at 8 o'clock, followed by the Republican response. Thank you for being with us. I'm Kat Manahan. We'll see you at 7 for New Jersey Network News.